Professor Dr. G.C. Kavitha, and she will be sharing with us on understanding suicide ideation. She has started the journey few days ago, or last week, if I might say, and we have to bring her back so that she can conclude with full knowledge on this suicide ideation. So we call this one part 2. And I'm glad that even though she travels all over the world to present, to speak, to lecture, to teach, she still have time to come to this morning to come and share with us and also celebrate our brand new baby book. So I want to say thank you so much for joining us today. But before I introduce her fully, may I use this time to welcome and to appreciate all our great leaders on Facebook, Ambassador Emmanuel, Ambassador Ilori, thank you for joining us. Ambassador Kweke, thank you for Isaiah, thank you for joining us. And many more, our friends from Georgia, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you. Thank you, my great leaders and my great supporter. And also, Isaiah, thank you for joining us. And many, many more that will be joining us later. We appreciate your time. And I also want to appreciate our mother is in the house, Dr. Samina. Thank you for joining us for today. And also my wonderful, excellent performance, personal secretary and assistant, Lukman Nuruddin is in the house. Thank you so much for your great works you are doing for this YYCI. Thank you that you still have time this morning to join us. Thank you so much. Professor Dr. Goanvaran Chengala Kavitha, the internationally acclaimed inspirational speaker, known as Happiness Woman, positive psychologist, physiotherapist, psychomerit, test professional, teacher, trainer, QPR, gatekeeper, trainer for suicide prevention, social activist for world peace and happiness, have counseled almost more than 65,000 women and adolescents till March 2022, voluntarily on happiness under the title Happiness is Your Birthright. She has honorary position as Vice President of ISRA India, editorial board member, supported by India, Rapul Magil Probhini Patrika, supported by Indian Council of Social Science Research. I have to try. I can't shy away. And also international president of Department of Health, Success World 1 NGO run by Queen Nadia and King of Hawaii Island, and also Central Team National Coordinator Wellness for India, COWI Action Network, ICANN, and Project Head for Serving Indian, a collaborative initiative of ICANN and NCPCR. So, permit me this morning to welcome Professor Dr. Kavitha GC from India. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Professor Queen Elizabeth, for your wonderful introduction, and happy Africa Day and happy Global Children's Day. And my best wishes to Mr. Sonatan Ghosh for the book release today, and also to SUCAN International for giving its first printing of the book across UK. So thank you so much. So going ahead with my talk on suicide ideation, the first part 1, and let me just continue with that. But before I continue with my with my talk, let me just give a brief intro on like what we spoke last time to have that connection to move across. So to understand, like why should we be talking about the suicide ideation? Why is it so important? If we notice, as per the World Health Organization, one of the largest causes of death, which has been increasing tremendously across the globe, one of the causes is suicide. And unfortunately, this is one of the most stigmatized topic for anybody to talk about because of the own myths that we have surrounding us. That this is such a sensitive thing and we are not supposed to talk about it, because if we talk, probably we are instigating somebody to take away their lives by suicide. So we have all these myths surrounding, and it is highly stigmatized because nobody likes to talk about death. People like to talk about the experience bad feelings, but they don't want to talk about the bad feelings. So before I go ahead, so first let me talk about what are the various causes that leads to the suicidal ideation. Why should any person think about it? What are the causes? Why should those thoughts and feelings first exist at all? When somebody is finding, there are various causes, like there are mental health issues that are already existing. That could be one of the reasons. Or it could be something like the bipolar disorder, or it could be schizophrenia, or it could be various other mental health disorders. The second reason could be the person is already into a substance abuse, like alcohol. It could be drugs. It could be anything. It could be any kind of substance abuse that they are into. The third thing could be like a recent trauma that has really traumatized the person so much that the person is not able to come out of it and not able to find out a coping mechanism to come out of that grief. That could be the next reason. And probably the fourth reason could be that the person has been already taking some antidepressants or some kind of medication that gives this hazy thoughts of hopelessness and not able to lead ahead. And then the next thing could be like, there is no hopelessness, there is no connectivity of that for that person. Like, let us say that there are few personalities which do not have a connection. As Hadiana was just mentioning, how important it is to have networking with people, and what is the importance of connectedness as a human being, as a social animal, how important it is for the mental health. There are few as a personality, because of their attachment patterns or because of their traumatic events of childhood, the kind of trust that they can have with the society is so much gone that they feel that they're so all alone by themselves, and they feel a lot of hopelessness. They don't feel that they have somebody that they can come back to or turn back to. And they have, probably the other reason could be a recent traumatic injury, that has actually made the person a physical pain, or some illness is also one of the reasons. Let us say that somebody is undergoing a treatment for a cancer, and there is a lot of pain that is induced because of a chemotherapy or because of various reasons which the person is not able to take, or some other illness where there is a lot of physical pain that is coming in across. And the other reason could be the kind of emotional pain that the person undergoes, because I'm sick, I'm forced to depend on someone, I'm causing pain to others. My family, instead of working, they have to give their time and energy for me to take care of me. So the kind of guilt, the shame, we are talking about the various negative patterns that are existing inside the mind, which makes a person, or which forces a person to see that, oh, there's no point in living anymore. So these could be the various causes that a person can actually ideate to take away life through suicide. So then, well, so we now know that there is these are the causes, or these are the reasons why a person thinks about suicide ideation. So what is next? What do we do next? I think today's talk, I'm going to comprehend the whole idea of suicide, like what are the various steps that we need to look into, giving a basic idea of like what are the causes and what are the symptoms, and like how do we really identify. The next thing that we are talking about is identification of a person, like who has suicidal ideations. How do we really identify? There are two major ways of identifying it. One way is through their talking, what kind of talk are they projecting? Is it a talk that carries the positivity, or is it a talk that carries lot of shame, anger, guilt, unbearable pain, or talking about hopelessness, talking about the grief, talking about that there is no hope that they see at any point in the lane of life, what they are facing right now. That is an expression. We try to understand that there is a problem, and this is active, or is it passive. There are some people who might say that, let me sleep and I wish I don't get up at all. They really don't have the intent to kill themselves. But there are some people who say that, no, I don't have anything at all. So there is a plan. So that there are something. So we look at it under the two phases, the active phase and then the passive phase of like the way they are looking at it. So once we know that through talk, the talk is one of the major behavioral attributes that we understand. The second one probably is the changes in the behavior and the mood of a person. When I say changes in the behavior and mood of a person, as I mentioned the other day, the first thing is a change in the personality or in the day-to-day behaviors. Or probably a quite an active person who wants to be all to himself or herself all the while, you know, and quite a socializing person, now no more keen on making up any connections with any person. And third probably would be maybe a person who has been a moderate eater, has been eating too much, binging too much, or not eating at all, or sleeping too much to not sleeping at all. We are talking about the extremes of a spectrum. We are
Mm,
talking about the behavioral changes that stands on the extreme of a spectrum. And probably there is a withdrawal, and there are some people like who give away their most prized possessions. Like they feel they cannot, they at any cost they cannot share their prized possessions with anyone else. But probably now they have come to a stage, anyways, I'm not leaving, so what's the point in holding this? Come on, you can take this book, I don't need it anymore. Okay, so there is the behavioral or mood fluctuations that one can notice when the ideation is going on in the mind. So these are the two things that we need to see, we need to watch out for. One is the talk, what kind of talk, and second is what kind of behavior and what kind of mood fluctuations or changes that we are noticing in a person. So once we notice this, what do we do next? So we know that there is something wrong going on. Okay, there is something wrong going on. So what is that we do next? So there is a very important step called asking, because let us not be subtle, because we have a feeling, this being a very sensitive point of subject, like we feel hesitant, and we try to be very diplomatic in asking, are you planning to hurt yourself, might not be the right question. The question has to be very direct, because people mostly think that when we ask a direct question, there are possibilities that you are instigating the person to take the extreme step. But many researchers, many studies have shown that a direct questioning will help the person feel better. As I mentioned in my last talk, taking away life is the most fearful one. They feel so lonely, and it is not so easy to think about it or to talk about it. It's not so easy. So they're waiting for somebody to talk to them. So rather than being very diplomatic in asking them, rather than being diplomatic, I think the questioning has to be pretty straight. Are you planning to take away life through suicide? Do you have a plan? What are you thinking? So this is the first thing. Asking becomes the next thing, because let us not hesitate. There are many evidences which has shown that asking has supported many people to feel that there is somebody who can actually think their mind, they validate their feelings, because there is not many who validate the feelings of people. So this is the second thing that we are doing. And while asking questions, the next most important thing is like, be there for the person. When
mm,
I say be there for the person, the body language, the eye contact, because I'm not asking and I'm not looking around, wandering around the room to see what is happening. Let the other person know I have a very genuine interest, because the whole idea is that they're so lonely, they're so isolated, they feel strongly that they don't have anybody for them. So showing a genuine interest through the body language, because 80% of our personality is reflected through the body language, and talk is just 20%. So the making a very genuine eye contact, and then making and then touching the person if needed, and asking questions, so open-ended questions. I understand, I validate your feelings. Your feelings are pretty genuine. So what do you want me to hear more? What are the other things that you want me to hear? So do that. Talk to them. When you are there for the person, be genuinely there for the person. And here, there are some don'ts that we need to know. When I say don'ts, the don'ts are: don't make the person feel guilty, or don't make the person make silly or shame of the decision. Because here our job is to help the person. They're already in the feeling of guilt and shame. So when we say such a silly decision you have taken in life to take away your life, I didn't expect this from you. You're such a strong person. What's wrong with you? No, let's not be judgmental about the whole idea, because our job here, when I say you have to be with the person, when I say you have to be with the person, be genuine and validating the feelings of the person. Validating the feelings is very, very important. We need to know that. And the questions we need to be pretty sensitive in understanding that we are not judging, we are not criticizing, we are not creating a shame in the person, we are not creating more guilt in the person. That's already there. So we need to be very, very sure about the verbatim we use when we are talking to the other person. So we have to be genuinely there for the person to make the other person feel okay, the whole world is not there, but at least you are there for the person. Because there is a research that has shown that connectedness is one of the main aspects of any human being to survive in the society. Connectedness creates everything. If not anything, it creates, if it might not create money, it might not create anything, but it creates that emotional security, and it gives that feeling that yes, I need to be there because I have somebody for me. That is a very important emotion. That's a very important feeling. So one has to be genuinely be there for the person. And the third thing is, we are looking into a brief intervention. When I say brief intervention, what I mean by brief intervention, we are ensuring that the person who's having this ideation of suicide is safe, not accessible to the lethal weapons, through which the life can be taken. As I told you, suicide is just a very moment, though it is a planned one, but that act is pretty impulsive one. A pretty impulsive one. So we need to ensure the brief intervention, what we are talking about. There are two things. One is like the lethal weapons, or any act or anything that can really harm a person is not within the person. And second most important thing, ensure that there is somebody with the person. Let the person not be alone. That's the brief intervention that we can do as a beginning. And third most important thing, when a person has this feeling, put this across to the friends, to the family friends, or to the extended members who has good wishes for this person. Because that is something that this cannot be kept as a secret. It's not a secret, because if not you, there is somebody else for the person. When people call and say, hey, we are there for you, there is a kind of a confidence that the person gets in the whole process. So it's very important. As a brief intervention, there are two things. One is, see that the person is safe and not accessible to the lethal weapons, which can take away the life. And second thing, ensure that there is a person always there. That is the next step that we are looking at. The third step that we are looking into is keeping them safe. And fourth one, helping a person to connect to the mental health professional. That is the job of everyone. We need not be a mental health professional, but we can always help somebody to connect to them. Talk to them in a way that they are ready to go and connect themselves to somebody. What usually happens in the intervention? Let me not explain too much in detail, because it is more of therapy, but let me just give a gist of what exactly happens. Let us say that when there is a person like who has the suicide ideation, they first try to screen it to find out. There is a 30 questionnaire set, which is called the suicide screening test, which measures if the person has an active suicidal thought or a chronic suicidal thought. When I say an active suicidal thought, it gives an idea like when are they planning to take their lives. If I say chronic suicidal thoughts, a chronic suicidal thought, it says it's been since long that they have been under this ideation, so it can happen anytime. So there is a risk assessment that the doctors do. Once they do it, then they try to identify the underlying condition for the ideation. When I say underlying condition, Professor Elizabeth, I'm talking about this because I have heard somebody asking a question, what do they do? In the WhatsApp group. Yeah. So, anyways, that slipped out of my mind. I thought, let me take the opportunity to talk about it here. So the second thing is once they assess the risk, the suicidal risk of the person. The third thing that they do is they go with the underlying cause of it. When I say underlying cause of it, the cause can be anything. It can also be a family trait. There are suicidal tendencies in the families which are carried out. That also can be a reason. So there can be a family trait, or there can be, as I mentioned, there can be a substance abuse associated. There can be a trauma where the coping mechanism has not happened. The person could not cope with it, or probably there is a brain injury we are talking about, or probably there is a medication that is making the person feel like that, or there is a long-term illness or unbearable pain that the person feels there is no point, or there could be shame, guilt in the person, which is making the person feel that there's no point in living because of me, many are suffering like this. Okay, so they try to the next step is they try to identify the underlying cause of the suicide. Once the risk assessment is done, after this, then they will go with probably a holistic therapy of a psychosocial therapy, also a medication if needed. When I say medication, they do look into like if the person needs the medication for depression or for any other thing that is involved in that. Or they also look into, if not the medication, they also look into the psychosocial factors which are associated with it, and they can go for psychotherapies like CBT or DBT. To give a small idea, CBT is something that will really help a person to change the thought process when the pain is much. When there is a stress, when there is a trigger, I'm so much used to thinking it in a certain way. So they help me to translate my thinking to a more safer one, rather than looking at it as hopelessness, helplessness, unbearable thing. I look at it, I can still do it, I have to try. There is a change, there is a shift in the thinking process. Or they can also do a DBT is a combination of therapy, talk, like mindfulness. They can help the person deal with that strongest emotion that comes in when the trigger comes in, wherein they can teach them the strategies for mindfulness, or they can teach the CBT as well. So there are many things they can also teach. They can also teach like how do you interpersonalize with people to feel more. How do you see more positive ways of living in your given situation? So they help a person. So therapy is another thing that they look into. So these are the various ways that they feel that they do it. So as a friend, as a person, your job, as I told you, first is to first identify the changes in the behavior or in the talk. Second is to ask the person directly, ask the person. Third is be there with the person. When you are with the person, be very genuine. You're doing a good job, you're saving a life, it's not a small thing. So you need to be very sincere, and you need to be really really sincere and honest when you do that job. And the fourth one is help them connect to the mental health care professional. And as I told you, these are the things that usually happen, when there is a suicidal ideation. So once that you're done, the next job is following up. Just because you've done your job, don't leave the person. You have a responsibility, a social responsibility of either putting up a text or calling the person and saying, "Hi, are you okay? How are you feeling now? So let's think. How do you feel? Like, do you feel like coming to me? How do we do that? So these are all the things that we have to do as a 5-step approach to really to save a person from taking away their lives from through suicide, in fact. So these are the things that we can look into. And so for out of all these things, I feel the most important thing is how well you are connected, how well you're genuine in your behavior with the other person, and how well you really want to help the person. Don't do it for the sake of doing it. Do it because you really want to help somebody. Because the behavior, the mind, the talk, everything changes if the whole idea of doing something genuinely shows up. That's very, very important. Very, very important. And how do we really prevent all these things? Maybe I'd also like to talk about like how do we prevent it. Especially in the youth, which is in the higher sense of taking this idea, getting into this ideation. I think the most important thing is to include the mindfulness as a part of it, because that's very important. Most of the people like who have the ideation have an ability to cling on to their past. They keep on clinging on to their past and they're cribbing about what is happening. So all the time they try to magnify one same experience. I always keep telling people during my talks, the problem what you face is one, but your
Mm.
mind is thinking about it so many times, because we have around 60 to 70,000 thoughts in a day, and we remember probably around 3 to 4 or 5 to 6, maybe not beyond that. So, which means that all the other thoughts are at working at a subconscious level, labeling you, telling you're bad, doing you're bad, and maybe there is so much that is actually getting inside. Where are the thoughts going? So it's so important that rather than clinging on to the past or clinging on to this, we need to teach mindfulness, that strategy to be in the moment, in the present for the children, such that they know that past is past and future is future. What is that I do my best now to see that my future is much more better? Mindfulness is one thing that is playing a crucial role in telling. And the next one is the emotional regulation, because whenever there is a situation, the way we regulate our emotions, it creates the decisions that we are looking into. When our emotional regulation, dysregulation is happening inside us, where we are only reacting, where we only label, where we only judge, where we only where we feel so bad for ourselves, where we are at a side where everything bad is happening.
Mm.
Okay, so the emotional dysregulation. I think teaching emotional regulation and teaching mindfulness, and along with, I also feel that it is important that the connectedness is something that we need to teach, the social skills for the children. Nowadays, the social skills, it's no problem. The platforms are huge for social skills. But the problem here is there is no genuine social connection. I know a case like the person who was taken away life through suicide. His Facebook friends list was around 5,000. What is the point we are talking of? What happened to all this 5,000? Where were they living? So this is something that this is we are talking of. We are not talking about a number. We are not talking about a quantitative connection. We are talking about a qualitative connection. The connection that can really make you feel better as a person. The connection that can really make you feel better as a human being. That's very, very important. So these are the things I think we need to teach the children. We need to really teach the children the emotional regulation, mindfulness, and true connections. How do they really establish true connections? So I
Mm.
think when we can do that, we will be in a position, to really help the youth or children, to stop them, from ideating or going to the extreme of taking away lives through suicide. I think with this, I end my talk. So let us recall these 5 steps once again. Once you recognize the symptoms from the person, the first thing is you need to ask the person, genuinely be with the person. And the third is help the person to connect to this one. And fourth is keep them safe. Ensure that you are doing a brief intervention of keeping the person safe, because taking away life is
Mm.
there is a trigger that comes somewhere at night, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, probably you're sleeping, and then the person is on. There's no point, it's all dark outside, and they go and they take away their lives. It can be as simple as that. Okay. So keeping them safe, and then next is following them up. Don't leave the person till the time the person is normalized, till the time you feel the person has emotional regulation in doing this. Don't leave the person to themselves. It's so important that we all sit here as a community to help each other to really enjoy and appreciate this life, which is very beautiful thing, because there is so much that we can learn and there is so much that we can do. And all the time we are so busy, thinking about only the bad things that are happening to us, so we can come out of it. So with this, I'd like to end my talk. Thank you so much for the opportunity. If there are any questions, I would like to take.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Without wasting much of our time, let me quickly check. First of all, I want to appreciate all our great leaders that have joined us here on this platform of Zoom, and also all our great leaders that have joined us on the that has joined us on the Facebook Live. Thank you so much. But we want to pause a little bit. But if you quickly have a question, can you, Professor Kavitha, are you going to wait for a longer period?
I mean, not really, so though I
Not
wish
really.
to.
Okay.
Maybe another 10 more minutes,
10 more minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Because we need to launch the book. So that is why
Yeah.
we want you to be part of the book launching before you
Yeah.
leave. So what I will suggest is that any other person that have questions, please wait behind so that we launch this book. And then after this book, then we can continue our masterclass and you can answer, you can ask so many questions. If Professor Kavita left, she will still answer your questions. I can give you that guarantee. So, but we want her to witness this launching together with Mom from USA that has wake up as early as 2 o'clock, and Coach Ediana that is coaching all our leaders, and she will be proud of us being here and for us to do what we want to do. Mom is also here, Dr. Samina from Pakistan. So allow me to continue by launching the